I had an interesting childhood. I was born on a hippie commune in New Mexico. Free spirits and hippies and drug users and lots of other people came to try to build a little community where they could be free and do all the things they wanted to do. When I was a few years old, some missionaries ministered to my parents in the hippie commune, and that's where they got saved. After that, everyone in our family got saved. My mom led me to the Lord when I was 5 years old. When I was in college, I came home to live with one of my roommates from college. He went to church with Sarah, and then that summer, he introduced me to her.
We were friends for a couple of years before we got married. We got married in 1993, and we had 4 children and raised them and became empty nest in 2017.
We moved to Lee Summit on June the 14th, 1985, and we attended Lee Summit First Church that night for the first time. When we came out here that first Sunday, I remember driving by seeing a sign from the highway that stated, "Future home of Lee Summit First Assembly of God Church." We served for 25 years at Lee Summit First Assembly before the possibility of merging with Summit Park.
Growing up for me was hard. I was born to teenage parents. They were into drugs, alcohol. My dad went away to prison, so I didn't see him very often. We were really poor. We didn't have food to eat. I remember sleeping on bed crates. Our house got raided. I can't tell you how many times putting my mom in handcuffs and watching that. The pain that I went through was something I'm still dealing with, even to this day.
We were sitting at Summit Park, and the message that we heard that day was the story of the ruler who gives the talents to his servants. All of us are different, and we have unique gifts, unique backgrounds, unique skill sets, and God, no matter what they are, we can't just sit back and rest on what we have. God calls us to use them and move our lives forward.
We were starting to think about our empty nest and what that would mean. And then God just set us on a totally different path.
God was really just saying, hey, there's more. He has stuff for me to do and for us to do.
It was brought to the board to consider the merger, and we had a unanimous vote. Really felt like that this was God's direction for this time.
We needed a spark in our church.
If it wasn't for the church, I definitely would be in a different situation. This guy named Mark, he was a nightclub owner. My mom was a frequent visitor of the nightclub on the weekends. Thankfully, God had redeemed Mark at 7 years old. He offered to take my sister and I to church. It started to change my life. All of a sudden on Sundays, I had this normalcy, and I had these people that loved me and that told me about this God that loved me. It changed everything. I was 8 years old when I first accepted Christ. I felt like if I got to know this God, that he was going to make sure that everything was okay for me.
We were literally empty nesters for a few months. 3 months till we felt the call, and God put this on our hearts. And then in sort of a miraculous series of events, we went from that call to having 4 beautiful children placed in our home within a couple of months after that. And eventually we adopted those four children. Our youngest, what we call our younger 4 children.
I've just learned that I just need to keep saying yes to the next step that God has for us.
Thinking back, there was a missionary called. He took a step. He somehow got out to the mountains of New Mexico and helped lead my parents to the Lord. My parents took that step, and because of that, here I am. We are, helping to have an impact on other people. I'm just a regular, average person, but God can use me, and I know He can use each one of us.
Seeing how many people are coming to the Lord. That's what it's all about, is to bring new people into the family of God, and it's such a blessing every Sunday to know that people are giving their lives to Him, and I'm just so thankful that He's given me a greater desire to grow in Him and be a better servant for the Lord.
If our steps played a small part in someone coming to know God, it has been well worth it.
Amen.
My sister and I prayed for a long time that my mom would get saved until I was 12 years old and my mom hit rock bottom. My mom was in a court issue over drugs, and we were getting ready to be taken away. She had already signed custody over my sister and I to my grandma. God, in His timing, persuaded the judge to give my mom probation and not send her to prison. We already were involved in a church that had that type of ministry, and so she got plugged in right away at our church. From the time I was 7 to 12, my Uncle Mark took us to church. From 12 on, my mom started taking us to church. So not only did my Uncle Mark change our lives, but he changed her life. She started leading women's overcomers to Christ and helping other women overcome their addictions. Our financial situation improved. She went back and got her GED. She went on to get her bachelor's degree. We were no longer living in poverty. And so it was kind of just this aha moment of watching God actually before my very eyes, of living this sorrow in the darkness and then coming into the light. We have this freedom that we'd never seen before.